Good afternoon, good evening. This is Louisa Tanner Munson from Feel Good Astrology, coming to you live from Portugal in Europe, in the UK time zone. Let me know where you're listening in from. Where are you? What your name is, and also what you'd like to contribute right now. Like, what's on your mind astrologically, and so on and so forth. So today in the show, we're going to be looking at a few things. First of all, I'm going to be looking at the aspect of the week. There's an aspect that I've chosen, Mars in opposition to Saturn. So I want to briefly go through that, what we might want to look out for, how we might handle it, how it might show up in our own charts, etc., etc. Then I'm also going to have a look at a chart for somebody. So I'm actually going to have a look at, do some like live pop-up astrology for somebody called Darby, who would like a little bit of advice right now. And then I've been given a question from someone in my community, talking in terms of the law of attraction. This is for you, Troy, if you're watching, although you might not be because you're in Australia, so it's going to be like the early hours right now for you. But Troy was asking me about how the law of attraction and astrology work. How does the universe talk to us? So I'm going to explore a couple of things there. And then finally, I'm going to do a little section with my husband. This is going to be a regular piece to our show. Carl, if you know him, is pretty irreverent, and is very new agey and always has something really good to comment on. He's a bit of a comedian, and we're going to resurrect one of our old series that we used to do on podcast called Listening for Signs. There's quite a few astrological references to different songs. And we like to crack them. We like to look at the lyrics and actually say whether it's astrologically good or if it's a load of old astrological hooey, and we've got a song tonight. If you haven't heard it already, it's called Float On by the Floaters, which actually sounds pretty gross. Before I go any further, let's just welcome people into the chat room. So I can see I've got a few people watching. So first of all, let's welcome Darby. So hey, Darby, I'll be coming to you in about 15 minutes or so. We've also got Penny Albertella joining us from the UK. Hey, Penny, to you and your family. We've got our friend Nubia Net. Hey, Nubia Net was visiting very recently, actually, in Portugal. So that was very nice. And we've also got my cousin Barry. Hey, how are you? How are you doing? What's it like over there at the moment? And Darby, you're saying you're from Lecompton, is that Kansas, USA? So yeah, we've got people, a couple of people in the US, 3 people in the US, and we've got a couple of people watching from the UK and also Portugal. So it's really cool. So let's get going then. First thing then I'm going to do then is look at our aspect of the week, or have an aspect watch basically. So oh dear, it's cold and very wet in the UK. Not surprised. So much for this heat wave we've been hearing about. Anyway, let's have a look at Mars in opposition to Saturn, which is happening later on this week. So let me just make that a little bit bigger. Now, for those of you that know a bit about astrology already, you'll know that this is the symbol for Saturn, and Saturn is known as one of the malefics. He's a bit of a badass when it comes to astrology, but I think it's a little bit unfair because he's also like the eternal father. Yes, he might also resemble the Grim Reaper, and yes, he does limit things. He is very sort of paternalistic. He is a bit like the sort of management in any big organization. He's not necessarily at the top, but he's like one of these middle managers and like VPs that likes to tightly control things, set up rules and regulations. Saturn is very much represented by corporations, banks, insurance companies, anything that is trying to formulate and create structures. We obviously need structure in our life to some extent. I mean, we've all got bones and muscles, and Saturn is a natural ruler of those kinds of things, anything that helps to create stability. But obviously, if you have too much of it, what happens? I mean, we become arthritic, we can't move, where things get too penned in, we lose our creativity. So, as with all the planets, there's a very sort of positive and also a negative. And Saturn can be very judgmental, because it sees things as very, this is how it should be. And if it deviates from that, then Saturn's not particularly happy about it. And then we've got Mars here, and you'll see that Saturn is at 6 degrees, Mars is at 6 degrees. It actually says 6:19. It will be 6:21. I just maybe put in the wrong minute when I was setting up this chart. But Mars here, it doesn't look like it's in opposition because it's been shunted across to the side, but effectively they're both at 6 degrees, and that makes them 180 degrees away from each other. Now, the energy of Mars is very much about movement. If you think Mars is also known as Ares or Ares, the god of war, according to whether you're Greek or Roman. But the god of war is obviously the masculine principle. So from that perspective, we've got a shared common interest, I guess, between Saturn and Mars. Saturn appears very much a man's man, but maybe not, so forceful. Saturn uses rules to control things, whereas Mars uses brute force. Now, Mars is very much the masculine principle. It's very much about doing and being. It's very much about vitality. And so, for instance, where your Mars is in your chart shows how you assert yourself. And if your Mars has some really great aspects, supported aspects, for instance, some of these short blue lines or some of these long blue lines that show sextiles or trines, then your Mars is probably well supported and you're able to express yourself very easily. When there's lots of red lines coming from the position of Mars, showing squares, these shorter ones are squares and these longer ones are oppositions, then your Mars might be a bit jagged in the way it's expressed. Similarly with Saturn, Saturn shows responsibility. If it flows with these lovely blue aspects, you're able to be naturally responsible and to grow. Whereas with these red ones, you're more likely to be lording it over people and creating a bit of a struggle. Now, Mars and Saturn in opposition, by its very nature, an opposition is seeing things from a different perspective. Now, ordinarily, Saturn is showing what we're trying to keep still and grow and control. And Mars is showing what we're moving on. We are still wanting to control things with a Mars energy because Mars is very much a creator, but it doesn't want to be pushed around. And it definitely doesn't want any kind of authority telling it you can move, but you can only move between here and here. So instantly you can see you've got a bit of a seesaw with both of these parties wanting to be in control. Saturn has age and probably status over Mars, whereas Mars has got brute force and can basically beat up Saturn. So when you see this coming up, you would really want to interpret which sign it's in. Like Saturn here is in the sign of Pisces. Mars here is in the sign of Virgo. Neither of them are particularly strong signs for each of these characters to be in, I wouldn't say. So, or I would say, now you'd get a very different picture with an opposition if you had, say, Saturn in the sign of Capricorn versus Mars in the sign of Cancer. That would give a very sort of different expression. But in terms of this one that's coming up this week, we've got this authority in a kind of undescribed and quite expansive place, like the place of Pisces. Saturn in Pisces currently really feels like we're experiencing a different way of regulating ourselves. Pisces looks at the biggest picture. It's not so specified. Saturn doesn't really respond well in this sign. But you may well find that there are a lot of mandates or dictates coming from those people, those individuals that maybe are like the middle managers of the world or whatever, that are trying to set these global rules, these global ideas, given that, the sign of Pisces is very sort of unspecified and is big. It goes across continents. So we may well find that at the moment we've got this sort of expanding energy of trying to put rules and regulations around things that generally can't be managed or specified. almost like, our spirituality, which is very much a Pisces theme. Our spirituality is trying, somebody somewhere is trying to regulate spirituality, and beliefs and religion and our own intuition. So God knows what that's about. And it could be useful because, right now I'm seeing a lot of people are getting into things like astrology, the law of attraction and things like that, things that might help them. People are actually starting to take into their own hands different tools that can help them in their own evolution. I see that as a great thing. Now, Mars here in the sign of Virgo, like Virgos are great doers, to be fair. They are very good at getting things done. And Mars being in the sign of Virgo is quite helpful to get things done and to get things cleared up. But Mars isn't very much a detailed person. Mars likes to kind of bash into into a problem and resolve it. So it's not necessarily, I don't really get the feeling that Mars here is very happy. But there are a lot of situations at the moment where people are getting their teeth into things. What I really see is going on in terms of world politics in this week ahead, or what you might find with your own chart, is I would actually add in some of these extra bits that are happening at the same time that Mars and Saturn are in opposition. So in terms of this week, Mars is also in a conjunction with Pallas Athena, and also in a conjunction with the moon, and also just in a conjunction with Venus. So this Mars energy is really quite interesting. The fact that the moon's there is implying personal feelings. So I don't really see Mars as an entity. I see Mars as being people. This is like people coming together. The fact that it's Mars and Venus, it's still in a conjunction, just hanging in there. I would say it's everyone, men and women and children, given that we've got the moon there. It feels like families are self-organizing. Families are almost uniting at the moment and seeing patterns that are going on for them, patterns that are working for them. The vertex is a funny little point in astrology, which I don't really have much time to talk about today. But one thing it normally shows is what the universe is wanting us to work on or to express. So the fact that the vertex is so close to the Mars and Venus and the moon, to me, it feels like right now we're being asked to organize ourselves in our families, in our groups, with all the people that we're close to, our friends and stuff, and come together and share patterns, recognize what we're noticing going on, and to really talk about it. It really feels like it's time that we might start to find the solutions to our own problems, so that we don't need someone outside of it being an authority. So what I'm really seeing is we are becoming our own authority at this time. But in general, if you've got Saturn and Mars in opposition to each other, how I see that playing out is that as an individual, you probably struggle with authority trying to control you. And at the same time, when you are trying to be responsible and get things done, you notice that somebody seems to be working in opposition. So it's not a very peaceful thing to have going on in your chart. To me, it really implies that there is this constant wanting to be in charge and take control, and also a very deep resentment of anyone that does that to you. And I I would think that to find freedom from this pattern is to recognize that what we see in other people is something that's playing out in us. So if other people are coming into our world and seeming aggressive and pushy and really trying to do a number on us, we need to recognize that we might have that energy going on ourselves. It's this is very the oppositions, where you've got one thing over here and something playing out over here. It's really showing what's in the mirror for us. So it's a very difficult one. I would also say in a personal chart as well, given that this is very much representing the structures, your internal structures of your body, like your bones, your muscles, your digestion, because it's kind of slow and assimilates things, very much like the energy of Saturn. I would say that it's quite easy for you to get out of balance and to overindulge and to overstress your bones and your muscles and things like that. So if you're born with this kind of thing, I would absolutely urge you to really take care when you've got a slightly disruptive planet going over this area or over your Mars area, because it could be just that thing that's needed to make something snap or break or not work so well. I do think it's also important, if you have got that, not to panic. But yeah, so anyway, I hope that's helpful in terms of just understanding a little bit more about Saturn and Mars in their opposition. So anyway, let's get back to the chat room and just see what's going on there. I think we've got people just saying hello. So Carl, good morning, Portugal, is saying hello to, or Ola from Portugal to Barry. Penny is actually saying, oh bugger, mine are in opposition. Mars in Cancer and Saturn in Sagittarius. Now, Penny, this is actually quite useful. I mean, you know, I didn't mean to worry you there. Isn't it funny how when I mention something and someone's got it, we instantly often go to, oh my goodness, what does this mean for me? The fact that your Mars is in Cancer and your Saturn is in Sagittarius, Cancer and Sagittarius aren't natural opposites. They're just ever so slightly different. So your Mars must be at the beginning of the sign of Cancer and your Saturn must be at the end of Sagittarius. Because really the true opposition, if they were exactly 180 degrees from each other, they are absolutely most likely to be in complete opposite signs, i.e. both of them in Cancer and Capricorn, or them being in Sagittarius and Gemini. So what's quite useful about this is your Mars in Cancer is a bit of a doer, and your Mars is very much motivated by loyalty and family loyalty. So the way you do things is because you care. And so you find authority by caring and being like a mum and really watching out for people that come into your remit. And it can be bossy. It's a bit mother goosey, but it's not necessarily so difficult. Now, Saturn in Sagittarius, the rules are expressed in a more philosophical way. So you may well find your mother hen gets very irritated by faceless bureaucrats that don't appear to own issues, but just to talk around them. It's very philosophical. And you might also find when you're being an authority, in particular with the work that you do, because I know you're a very talented hypnotherapist, you know, when you're in your authoritative state, i.e. in the Saturn place, you're probably quite philosophical and very much based in non-attachment and helping people find freedom from the patterns that are ailing them. And you may well come up against their Mars in Cancer, showing that maybe they've already accepted and owned what they're, you know, like they might say, oh, but there's nothing I can do with this. This is something I get from my family. It's like my family story. So professionally, you may well find that there is that friction between what you can see as a philosophical pattern and what other people are seeing as something they can't separate themselves from. So it's an interesting one, really, really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anyway, it's time, I would say, to have a look at Darby's chart because I think it's going to be pretty cool. And I've just got I'm just having a bit of fun here. So let me just get these comments off. And let's bring on Darby's chart now. So I'm caught out because I haven't got her chart on. I didn't move fast enough, but I've got it on now. So let's get that up. I do actually feel a bit like a super sleuth when I'm looking at charts now. It feels like I'm looking at the patterns and like shining the light and seeing what's going on. Now, what you might notice instantly with Darby's chart is that there's a mass of oppositions. Even if you've never looked at astrology before and seen things, you'll see that there's a definite, very strong pattern of reds all showing up almost like a seesaw. You know, with a lot of things down here and a lot of things in the opposite place. So these are all oppositions, these lines that cut through. And with oppositions, as I was just expressing with the Mars and Saturn opposition that's coming up later this week, we have planets that are they are absolutely kind of projecting onto the other. That's kind of how they're expressed. Now, Derby, as you can see here, in fact, Derby's got an opposition between her sun and her moon, which is also known as a full moon. Now, like Penny has, like a traditional full moon would be, her sun is in the sign of Virgo, the moon would actually be in the sign of Pisces, but hers is out of the it's in an opposition. It's like they're about 180 degrees away from each other, but it's not in the actual opposite sign. So Darby's moon sign is in the sign of Aquarius, and then she's got a Virgo sun. Now, this is really quite strong, because if you're an eagle-eyed astrology fan, you'll also notice these little patterns here, which I've spoken about quite a bit actually, very, very recently, because the North Node, this is the North Node here. It's like it's almost like a karmic portal or entryway, and we've got the South Node here. They're always in opposition, those two. So the North Node at the top is showing us the karmic direction that Darby's moving in, and also what she kind of struggles with. Like the North Node shows us what we always seem to be doing and trying to do, and going around in little patterns. We're not always relieved by it. And then the South Node shows what we've already come into this world really doing quite well, and for people that believe in past lives and future lives, the South Node might show some of the patterns that Darby's had in previous lives, if you believe in those. So this is showing where she has ease, and this is showing sometimes where she has a bit of difficulty, and things that need to come up again and again. Now, this is really unusual, but Darby also has, not only has she got the sun in a conjunction with her North Node, she's also got Uranus, which is an outer planet, in a conjunction with her North Node, which it's a very tight conjunction, less than a degree between the two of them. So she's got a very strong karmic pattern playing out. Now, her Uranus, like Uranus represents where we are separated, and where we well, I think the North Node and Uranus often show us where we have very karmic lives with very strong starts and very sudden breaks, and it's very stoppy-starty. I know that's not exactly a word, but Uranus is very much a planet to do with big changes in consciousness. Is a huge one. Anything to do with electricity, and anything to do with the internet and downloads, and everything sort of technological, is very much wrapped into this pattern with Darby that gives her a bit of a challenge, which is an interesting thing to note. And I'll go into this in a minute. But down here, she's got on her South Node, she's got her moon exactly on her South Node. Now, the moon represents our psyche and our intuition, and at some level, our mum, and the sun often represents our dad. It's interesting, her mum and dad are like showing poles apart. They might have had very, very different roles and very, very different personalities. It's also interesting that her South Node and her moon are in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius, one of the planets that rules Aquarius, is Uranus. So there's a very strong Uranus theme. And I would imagine that Darby appears to be a catalyst for change in her own life. But I suspect that Darby, I don't want to say gets blamed or is the scapegoat for things, but it's almost like wherever Darby goes, energy is changing. It's like this crackling energy around her, and it kind of discharges off her. She might be very clumsy, for instance, but she's got kind of an interesting energetic, and people may well go through big periods of change through spending time with her, because it just feels like there is something very different and unusual about Darby. And we're all bouncing off each other, aren't we? We're always interacting in different ways. She might seem very much like out of this world, like she's not even really from here. It's like she's got a different energetic signature. And then we add in, I hope you don't mind me talking so openly about this, by the way, Darby. We've also got Chiron here now. Chiron and the moon and the South Node is quite tricky. I know people, I've got some clients with the moon in a Chiron conjunction. Chiron is that planet that shows us where we're hurt, where we experience trauma. It can show us where we get ill again and again and again. And Darby's is in a conjunction with her moon. So to me, it feels like Darby has very, very strong emotions, and possibly a very strong and possibly emotional mum. And it's almost like you have a reaction to some of your mum's emotions, or maybe you have a condition that is related to your mum or the motherly line. It feels like there is something in that lineage that is playing out in your experience in this lifetime. So these are really, really big patterns going on. All of these planets in opposition, and like with your Chiron is also in opposition to Pluto. It's also in opposition to Uranus. You've also got Pluto and the Sun together, which shows a need for control, and possibly that your dad really likes control, and that everything is tried to be made safe. And sometimes that makes it difficult for you to find your individuality. And there's a whole mass of things playing out here at the same time. And with Pluto and Mercury together, you've got this very sort of investigative mind, really curious mind. I can see why you're interested in astrology, by the way, because most astrologers have very strong Uranus, a very strong Chiron, because we're interested in healing, often a very strong and piercing way of investigating, which is very much a Pluto and a Mercury thing. So these are all playing out. Now, I haven't actually spoken about what Darby was asking about, but she's got such an unusual chart that I just wanted to pay a bit of attention to it. And before I move on to what she's actually wanting to know about, I should also say she's born at a time when Saturn and Jupiter are together, which doesn't happen every day. It happens very, very rarely, like every 20 years or so. So this is very unusual. And also Jupiter and Saturn are also in opposition to Venus. So there's a whole heap of things going on here. It's like Darby broke the mold is probably what I would say. Now, speaking of breaking molds and whatnot, Darby has expressed to me that she, let me just go through. So I'm just having a quick look behind the scenes at the message that she sent me. So she's an overachiever and has found herself unemployed at the moment, and has had a lot of illness, which she's recovered from, and yet it feels like it's holding her back, as if somebody knows that she's been ill, and it's very, very difficult to get back into work. She's also feeling prodded to go into business for herself, which scares her. She's very intuitive, I should say so, really enjoying helping others and really needing an adventure and something. And you've asked what to focus on. You're saying, what's my next phase? What do I want to be when I grow up? You love animals. You're an animal whisperer with several different species, horses, dogs, cats. It's also a dream of yours to have an animal recovery farm centre home for the injured. And you're also an avid gardener. My friends tell me that gardening is my love language. I love that so much. So before I actually read this, I just want to check in with Darby to see if there's any comments coming in case she's saying, shut up. So Darby is saying, looks like a school teacher graded my chart. Bless you. You're saying yes, high energy. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm going to carry on with what I'm going to share with Darby right now in terms of how things can open up, and also how Darby can keep well. What really is interesting that she said something about teaching. It looks like someone's like put crosses or whatever on the homework, because you've got a lot of stuff in the third and also in the ninth. Now, the third house is very much about school and teaching things on a bit by, on a little lesson by lesson basis. And then the ninth house is about spirituality and religion and philosophy and all the bigger subjects, the deeper subjects. And it's also got a very strong teaching role. So you do have a lot of the internal teacher within you. And I suspect that your parents have had a really big role in the way you've evolved, and possibly they're big teachers, or they've got a very kind of strong guiding hand. Possibly like the moral guidance is playing out in your reality. There's also the third house is very much about your local community, and the ninth house is very much about anything apart from your local community. It's about big moves. So I think something based either where you're locally based is perfect, or that you go on some kind of trip that takes you outside of yourself. I think I can see why nature would totally work for you, given that Virgo is here and you've got so much here. Um, Virgo is very much about Mother Nature, very much about healing through nature. The fact that you're an animal whisperer does not surprise me at all, because like I said, you've got this instinctive, really beautiful, energetic, which is very different to other people. So much so that you can communicate beautifully with animals. So I don't know. Now, like your sort of problem, or not problem, but the situations it's presenting right now is that it's difficult to find a way to support yourself in the way that you'd like to. And there's a couple of things playing out at the moment, and I can share with you, like Pluto here over your Jupiter is a little bit problematic. Now, the great news is that from October, Pluto is starting to move forwards again, and in January we'll be in the sign of Aquarius finally, and you can start to rid yourself of some of the feelings of trauma that have been going on over the last, I would say, definitely for 5 years, but probably beyond that, because Pluto, as it made an advance over your Saturn, and kind of danced around there for pretty much the last 7 or 8 years. Pluto will have when it goes over your Saturn. If you remember in the last section I was talking about Saturn and how it represents our internal system, our bones, our muscles, our digestion, like how everything works and fits together. It's like your whole system had that sort of Pluto energy. And Pluto, if you think plutonium, it's like a nuclear energy. It wipes us out and we have to kind of rebuild ourselves. So Pluto here has been really working through you in terms of how you value yourself. These are happening in the second house of your chart, which is how do you value yourself? I really think that you've had to work very hard at that. Whilst Pluto's been doing that, he's also been in opposition to your Venus, which that would have made it feel very difficult. It would have felt difficult to feel intimate, almost like you've had to learn to be intimate with yourself again. You've had to learn how to really love yourself at a deep level. Now here we've got Saturn, which is a little bit problematic. Over definitely the last, Saturn moved into the sign of Pisces in March, and over Christmas was pretty much right here, just going over, like coming into a conjunction with your your south node and your moon. It would have reminded you of getting ill again, I would have said, over sort of Christmas, New Year and January. And right now he's going back, he's doubling back over your Chiron, which is the wound. And so it feels like right now it's a bit raw. What I suspect happened is over Christmas and the New Year, you were reminded of how you were poorly. And then from March, you started to move forwards again, because Pluto went into the sign of Aquarius, and Saturn finally moved away from this really difficult area and started moving into the sign of Pisces, which would have been very beneficial for you. And then both of these are now going backwards and kind of tightening back to where they were. Very soon, it's going to ease up again. And, I really do think that by like Christmas of this year, you'll feel like you're starting to move away from that old feeling of I'm never going to get out of this pattern. Other things that are also going on, which is kind of difficult and a little bit challenging, is you've had Uranus getting closer to Ceres here. Ceres is about nature and what it is to be a woman, and how involved we can get in things. And so it feels like as you've started projects and wanted to get going with a lot of things, it's almost felt like your energies have been scattered, like you've not been able to dive into something with great aplomb. And yeah, so there's a lot going on, and I just think this summer, like over this last month, it could have been quite interesting with these personal planets going over here, over your 8th house, because it would have brought up a lot of stuff around almost like embarrassment and shame and things that you would like to get some freedom from. If I was in your shoes right now, Darby, I would give yourself permission to rest and recuperate until pretty much we get to mid-September. Because the reason I say that is right now you've got Venus and you've got Mars and Mercury soon, and they're all going to be over this part of your chart. And at the same time, they're going to be in opposition to Saturn. And energetically, it's a time when we don't feel very energized. It's a time when we really need to relax, when we really need to enjoy ourselves, and actually when we need to learn. You know, with all this stuff in the 9th house, it's the best time to learn, to study, to give yourself a break, to go on holiday somewhere, even if it's like an energy exchange. Like, for instance, you know, is there somebody that you like? I'm guessing you're in touch with equestrian places, you know, places with horses or donkeys or stallions or goats. And I can't remember what other species you talk with. Let me just look. Yeah, horses, dogs, cats. You know, to me, it feels like what could be quite beneficial for you is that you kind of have a break from humanity and dive into the things that you really, really enjoy. And even if you're not getting paid at the moment, I think the most important thing is that you get the experience of the connection with the animals and get the experience of relaxing in nature a little bit. So if it's at all possible that you can take, you know, the rest of the summer off, but do something that you really enjoy doing, like tending to a garden or some kind of we have Workaway that you can go to, like Workaway, is it .org? I know it's an international company. And it's like an exchange where you can go and stay somewhere and do a little bit of volunteering. And you get your food and board and stuff like that done. But if there's some kind of opportunity where you can have a break, but also do what you love to do, because I can see that you do need to be of service. You've got so much like this energy here and here, like the 3rd and 9th houses are very much associated with sharing and being useful. So I think the more you can do with being useful and enjoying yourself, the better things will be when life starts to pick up again. And I really do think that by the time the sun gets over here, which is at the end of September, all of these planets will have moved on to here and out of a particularly triggering phase. Do you notice that, you know, there's a couple of times a year when you start to, your energy plummets and then it comes back again? I would suggest that the end of Feb through to March, and then the end of August, the end of the end of August through the beginning of September would be a time when your energy seems to dip. So give yourself a break, do something you love doing, feel the connection that allows you to really express yourself in the very special way that you do express yourself. And then I'm pretty sure things will start to pick up again. And I'm really happy within the community to also, you know, if you're looking at times when you might be better to like apply for jobs and things like that, I'm happy to give some guidance around that. So I hope that's helpful. Also, in terms of what you might need to look at if ever you get ill again, I would really recommend that you get tested out for allergies to waves, like microwaves, EMFs, and things like that. To me, it looks a lot like there's an electromagnetic stress thing, which is probably another reason why you like being around animals and plants and nature, because there's less interference with your actual physical body, you know, from outside emissions and things. So I would say, you know, get away from the electricity, get as much off grid as you can. So anyway, I hope that's helpful to you, Darby. So let's just go back and see what else is coming up. Barry's saying that's fun. Penny's saying all those lines in Darby's chart. She's got a lot of red there. Bless her. Darby's saying no, shut up. Don't shut up at all. That's good. All the red. Okay. So let's move on to the next thing. And then we're going to bring Carl in because Carl wants to have a bit of fun, some astrological fun with the song Float On by the Floaters. So the next question I was asked about, and that is the question of the law of attraction and the universe, how it speaks to us in language, and also how we can use it. And does astrology kind of match with it? So I just wanted to, that's Darby's chart. So let's just move on from there. So this is, I drew up a chart for the moment this question came in terms of, does the universe talk to us through astrology? And here's the funny thing, because the date that this came through when this was being asked about was actually the day when we had the new moon. So it was yesterday, and also the day when the North Node changed signs from Taurus into the sign of Aries. And it happens once every 18 months. So yesterday was a very, very special day. Arguably one of those days where fate and stuff really picks up and where it feels like the language of the stars is interpreted. You know, the new moon is a very, very strong, powerful day. Now, if I was, these little sections here are very much associated with different areas. They're called houses. And I always think that the fifth house, which shows what we're creating, like our self-creation, it's where we are birthing things, conceiving things. It's where we're sensuous, which obviously is something we're creating. And the 11th house is where we're really co-creating. It's like where we're in organizations, where we are working with others on joint and shared goals. And the 11th house is often associated with the sign of Aquarius, which is the 11th sign. And also, funnily enough, the sign of the planet Uranus, which I've mentioned earlier in terms of Darby's chart. But Aquarius and Uranus are kind of synonymous with the new age and ideas of the new age. And if there was a planet that was representing the law of attraction, then I would actually say that Uranus, which is about consciousness, is something that really describes the law of attraction and the nature of the universe. But also that Neptune, which is a big dreamy planet, you know, to show what we're meditating on, is also quite important as well. I really think this 11th house, whilst most astrologers talk about it as a place of friendship and where we're co-creating in organizations and charities and volunteering and things like that, I also think of it as the place of the law of attraction, because here we're just creating on our own. We're just like busy doing our hobbies and things like that. But imagine, you're performing your hobby and you make that, with the law of attraction, people are saying, okay, this is my intention. I'm dreaming about bringing this in. The moment you're dreaming about bringing something into the world and creating something, you're activating that consciousness between you and whatever source energy, universe energy, God energy, whatever you want to call it. It's like you're co-creating with the divine. And so I think the 11th house is where it's at in terms of how does the universe speak to us. I think the 11th house is a place that I would look at. I would also consider Uranus and Neptune. The fact that we've got in this chart where somebody's asking me, how does the universe talk to us? The fact that we've got the new moon showing up there is I think vital. Interestingly, the new moon in this position is also, they're both connecting to Uranus, the planet that I said is connecting into our creations. And then interestingly, Neptune is also in a very beneficial and flowing position to the moon and the sun. So the three things that I said would be active if the universe was communicating with us. They are all there in this chart where I'm asking on behalf of Troy, how does the universe talk to us? How does it work? Interesting that, right? Now, obviously, Uranus and Neptune are at the far reaches of our universe, and they're called outer planets, and they represent a consciousness that we don't really understand. And we we need to kind of personalize them and draw them into us. And so astrologically, seeing that Uranus and Neptune are connecting to the two most personal planets, which is the sun and the moon, is very much an indication that the outer are being translated through our psyche, through our intentions, into the 11th house. Now, what is also really interesting to me is the universe, like the idea of using the law of attraction. I always think the stories we tell ourselves are the things that come up in our life, that manifest. And if there was a sign that was associated with holding on to stories and family history, it's a sign of Cancer. Cancer is the sign of telling those stories, passing those stories down, holding on to the history and creating more of it for the next generation and the next generation. So I think, yes, in asking at this exact time for Troy, does the universe speak to us? That's the chart. And there's so much more I can talk about in terms of it. Just want to highlight a couple more things, and then I need to pull Mr. M in because he wants to dissect this song with me.
Pour your coffee. I'm here on time.
Can you hear him? Hang on, I'll turn him up.
I said I've brought coffee and I'm here on time.
Okay, you are actually
professional.
You are a professional. I'm not, am I? Just give me a minute. I'm just going to turn you down for a sec. Simmer down.
Charming.
So, in this, that's Darby's chart. Wrong chart. In this one, I didn't have anything else. I didn't put any asteroids in. It's just Uranus and Neptune connecting directly in the sun and the moon. So you can really, really see that. Then I just put in, just for fun, a couple of named asteroids because I wanted to see how they showed up. So there's lots of different asteroids that you can put into charts. Not everybody does this, by the way, but I find it kind of interesting that everything has a vibration and a sound. And there's an asteroid called Universitas, which has got the universe in. There's also Lawson, which I think of the law of attraction, and it's got sun, i.e. the idea of the law of attraction and astrology working together. So I put that in. And also Astro Wizard I've put in to see, the idea that we're conjuring something using astrology. What interests me in this is the universe is activated by the 5th house. The 5th house is where we're creative. The universe is speaking to us. That's interesting. Lawson, to activate the law of attraction. Interestingly, it's showing up in the 1st house, which is about the body, where we need to physically feel things. Lawson is connecting to the sun and the moon. So our body, where we're feeling things, need to connect into the stories that we're sharing with our version of the universe. And it's like it's going up to Uranus. And then finally, Astro Wizard. We can really conjure things from a deep place of the unconscious mind. In the 12th house, it's really showing. I think one of the keys to this is really knowing what's going on in your inner programming so that you can see where you may well be holding yourself back a little bit because of hang-ups and trauma and past stuff. So it's almost like you need to clear this and then activate your creativity and really start to commune with the universe or God or whatever you want to call it. But it's there, it's around you, it's a living field all around you, and it's your ability to sense it that activates it. So anyway, I hope that was useful to you, Troy, and I look forward to having some conversations with you about it in the near future. So it's that time where I'm bringing on Mr. M. Here he is.
Oh, hello.
Yay! I got the right sound effect, but actually he's coming on to do a bit of this. I'm going the wrong way.
Trying to put me on the other side, then I can look at you.
Okay.
And I'm experiencing everything you experience when you are here.
It's very off-putting, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when you can't hear yourself.
Sorry, there you go. Is that better?
Thank you. Not being a diva or anything.
You so are. Now, I've got a little presentation with all the words on.
This is where you've been all day.
Yes, it is.
Right,
so
okay, I've got you.
Let's get these lyrics on and then I can
get it singing them.
So,
well, should we just rewind a little bit, because we used to do something, didn't we, called
listening for signs,
which
in
is
fact,
a podcast.
In fact, if you just wait 1 second,
Yeah.
I've got a little intro for you.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's only 8
What
seconds.
a pro. Okay.
Here we go. Just for fun.
Thank you. Oh, so we're listening for signs. And hi, Penny. What we are doing here is we take a popular song.
Yeah.
And this one is a banger from, well, it's not a banger in the sense of a dance. Well, it's a dance floor favorite, but it's more from the bum clutcher section. You know, at the end of the evening in the 70s, there'd be a slow dance, wouldn't there?
Yeah, yeah. And we'd all be touching each other's bums.
Well, you would be finding out how much a girl liked you, depending on where she would let you put your hands on her back.
Yes.
And I suppose vice versa.
Yeah.
And you know, it'd be traditionally the last song, wouldn't it, or towards the end of the evening, before the lights were brutally turned on.
And then you saw what they looked like.
Well, there was that, and it was called the bum clutch section or the erection section, which is another. It's a bit early for that, isn't it? But I mean, we talk about this on the morning show, don't we?
Yeah.
But Float On by the Floaters is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we began this, didn't we, a few years ago, as we were enjoying last night listening to an old one.
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
When we looked at New Moon on Monday, which of course was very timely.
Yes.
Because that just happened. And we are looking at the Floaters Float On tonight.
Put your name down there now.
Oh wow, you are
and
such
Mr.
a pro.
M.
Added Mr. M. Right, okay. All right.
So
I put honey in my coffee so I can sing this if necessary.
Oh, that's good. I think you should. So let's bring on these.
Yeah,
lyrics.
if you think you don't know this and you're
can you sing a bit?
50 plus.
Yeah.
55 plus.
I'm guessing a lot of people.
Anyone over 55, 60 should know this.
Go on, sing it.
Well, I need to get in the mood a bit more, but it starts off with this sort of sound effect. Calm, Cancer, and I like a woman who is, and we'll go through these to see if there is any astrological integrity. That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it artistic license like the dawning of the age of Aquarius,
which is
all artistic license, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is there some astrological integrity?
Yes.
Which is what the bit of the show you've let me in for.
Okay, yeah. So just before we get
Barry
going,
remember it?
Barry's saying I had to wait until I was 30 before I could touch a woman without wanting to press charges.
You or her?
Without her wanting to press
okay.
charges.
Right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Or maybe it's worth the wait. I don't know. That does sound like it sounds like you might have been ready.
Yeah. So anyway, let's bring on the lyrics now.
Okay. So I had them on my phone, and okay. So it's slow. It's float on, and it goes on like that. And then the guys are introducing themselves. That you see the 5 floaters there, which is a terrible name for a band when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of is.
You know, when they said to their manager, "We want to call ourselves the Floaters," maybe the manager hated them and said, "Yeah, that's a really good idea, guys."
Yeah.
And thought that would be the end of their career. But they rose to the top. And the first guy up, as they basically talk through the verses and sing the chorus, don't they? Which is float on. Let me show you how sweet it could be sharing love with me. That's the singing bit.
Yeah.
But before that, you have a guy.
They do this honey voice like Aquarius.
It's Aquarius. And my name is Ralph. Now I like a woman who loves her freedom, and I like a woman who can hold her own as well as mine. And if you fit that description, baby, come with me. Take my hand. Let me show you to Loveland. All right. We know Loveland is probably a sex shop.
I think it's a euphemism for getting it on.
Yes, of course.
So,
all right. So anyway, was I singing too much? A bit too. You
are getting me all flustered there, Mr. M.
All right. So he's an Aquarian.
Yeah.
And he wants a woman who loves her freedom.
Yes.
And he likes a woman who can hold her own. So a freedom-loving own holder.
Yes.
Is that going to be a good fit for an Aquarian?
Well, here's the thing.
What's he looking for?
Well, I don't think he's going to quite. I don't think that's going to quite work because yes, Aquarians are definitely.
Right.
Now she does love her freedom for sure.
Yeah, but he's Aquarian, not her. What should he be looking for? Aquarius. And my name is Ralph. You see, we got 4 guys. Actually, it's only 4 guys get to sing. Who got left out? The guy, the skeptic.
Well, I think one of them looks a bit young. One of them looks like he's not Old enough to be dating.
Old enough to have a star sign. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe
So anyway, okay, so Aquarius.
Well, he's the percussionist too.
So
and we know what the percussionist job is in the band.
What? What, to like
Well,
snort
to
loads
help
of coke?
to help the band with their
Okay,
energy
okay.
levels.
So anyway, energetically, now he wants a woman that's gonna love her freedom, and he wants a woman that can hold her own. They're both definitely Aquarian tendencies.
Oh, so
as
two
are-
Aquarians might come together. Sagittarian.
Well, a
comes to mind.
Sagittarian
Yeah,
comes to mind.
yeah.
And if you fit that description, baby, come with me, take my hand, come with me. Here's the thing, this is the snag.
Right.
No Aquarian or Sagittarian
gonna
worth
fall
their
for that.
salt is going to go,
Well, come on.
oh, all right then.
Well, is any woman
No,
Piscean, mate?
you know, like the
Right.
Aquarius or Sagittarius is going to want to gallop off into the future. And
She's going to say that to him.
she's going to say, look, I'm on my own journey, Buster. You come
Okay.
with me.
I'm going to Loveland anyway, and you
Yeah.
can come along if you want. But if she's not going to Loveland, there's no chance.
No, it's
Right.
like float on, like
Float on,
jog on, mate.
float on, Ralph.
Okay.
So for Ralph, it's not looking too good.
I don't think so. I
But
mean,
who should he be looking for then? So he's looking.
I think he needs to slow down first off.
Okay, but you've only got so long in this song.
Yeah, okay.
You
yeah,
can't
okay.
you can't say we'll
Um,
warm you up at the beginning of the album, and then by the time we get to last
Yeah.
track on side B, you're going to be definitely wanting to go to Loveland.
yeah, okay.
This is a single that came out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a precursor to all the bump and grind that we see now, where people are
Exactly. It was a
Yeah.
little bit more imaginative, left a little bit more to the imagination in
Just,
them
it's a bit
days.
kinder.
Yeah.
We've got a few comments coming in. I
Oh, go on, let's
suspect
see,
it's
what's I thought Larry was the best catch. I was 20.
So Nubianette is saying, I didn't understand this song when I was a kid. So weird to me. Hey, hey.
Yeah.
Penny's saying, I remember. Barry's
Yeah.
saying, I thought Larry was the best catch.
Larry.
Larry.
I resonated with Larry when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I
Penny.
wanted him to be my uncle,
Did you?
Uncle Larry.
Penny was just saying, oh, I was 20.
Mm.
And Darby's saying the start of rap. Yeah, that kind of vibe is definitely
It's
going
definitely
on
the
there.
start of bump and grind.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so
No,
I-
I ain't
I-
trying to be rude. He's pretty good. No, okay.
I don't think
So
think
Ralph-
that's going to work.
Ralph we need to give Ralph some coaching, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, actually, that's
he
sort
needs a
of.
bit of help.
I imagine Ralph did very well for himself.
Sure
The
he did.
floaters on tour would have had a great time, I'm
I'm
sure.
sure they got
Yeah.
whoever they wanted.
But it was at the time. It was important for bands to be cosmic. I mean, we know how cosmic Earth, Wind, and Fire are. We love Earth, Wind, and
yeah,
Fire.
we do.
And so there was a lot of talk about astrology and spirituality and
Yeah.
cosmology, I think, in
Yeah.
the 70s funk and soul bands. And this is the more commercial end of that. So now we have Libra, and my name is Charles. Now I like a woman that's quiet, a woman who carries herself like Miss Universe, a woman who would take me in her arms and she would say, Charles, yeah. 2 words, Charles and yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we know where that's heading. That's definitely going
Yeah,
to
baby.
Love Town with
okay.
Booker Newbury the
So
third.
what you're saying is that
Yeah.
Charles is a Libra,
Yeah.
and this is what he's after.
Yes.
Okay.
So could you talk of
All
some
right.
sort of what's that woman, that famous book? Don't astrologers all wish they wrote that book where all the signs got matched up?
Oh, yeah.
Love
Linda
astrology?
Goodman's Love Signs.
Love signs. I mean, that must still be in print, right? Where
I
people
think
go,
I had
"Oh,
it once.
let me have a look. Let me have a look. Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Or yes. So when Libra and Charles
Yeah.
is looking for a Miss Universe, and I mean, he would not know what it would be, a box of chocolates these days, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Not knowing quite what you're going to get with the
You
Miss
really
Universe.
wouldn't know. Yeah, you really wouldn't know.
Right. But a woman who carries herself like Miss Universe, which in those days would have been somebody who helped a bikini-clad
Yeah.
woman who would help an old lady across the street and loves children, right? And isn't a man.
Yes, that's it. That's interesting because
Yes.
yeah, Miss Universe is very different now. It's about looks. And,
Well,
and really
Miss,
not about all their good
Miss
deeds.
Universe now could definitely take Charles in his arms.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Shall I start?
yeah. So
Okay,
anyway,
sorry.
I like a woman that's quiet. A woman who carries herself like Miss Universe, a woman
Yes.
who would take me in her arms and she would say, Charles, yeah. See, here's the thing with Librans, yeah, they're great, they're beautiful people,
Mhm.
and they do carry themselves
Yeah.
beautifully. And so he probably is looking for a smart and classically beautiful woman.
Well, with the same. So are these all guys all just looking for their own star sign reflection?
It sounds like he's
Sun
just
sign.
looking, but that's a very Libran thing because they,
Right.
you know, one of the darker sides of Libra, no offense to any Librans listening, I
Here we
think
go.
we do have a Libran listening. They are beautiful and classic and classy, and they're graceful, and they never really have a hair out of place, and they never really say the wrong thing. You know,
so Miss Universe is quite the Libran thing then.
Yeah, but there's also what I hear in this is that they're looking for somebody with a bit of status as well. And so I'm also thinking a bit of Capricorn, because a lot of, well, do you know what? A lot of Capricorn, a lot of models are Capricorns.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're quite statuesque, and they can hold a pose, and they like to be looked at. Leos would just, just want to dazzle with their personality.
Just for the photo shoot, none of the follow-up.
Leos are more about their personality.
Euphemism,
they're more about their personality, not just their looks.
Yes.
Whereas
all right. So they would want to be taken seriously,
yeah,
and not just have a beauty pageant.
Two of the most, and Taurians as well.
Yeah.
Now, I think Charles would be better off with a Taurian, because the Capricorn is less.
Charles. Charles. Yeah.
Because the Capricorn is less likely to take him in his arms and say, Charles, he's like the
Capricorn would say, can we make an appointment?
Yeah, the Capricorn woman would say, Charles, I'll sort this out, but you must put up those shelves first.
Linda Goodman, is that a suggestion?
Linda Goodman is who did the book.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, forgive me, Darby. Thank you for that help.
Do you know what? I think Charles actually needs a Taurian woman.
Okay.
Because they've got the beauty.
We're only 50 years too late.
Yeah, I know.
Right, okay.
If only
all right, so Lovetown, what is he heading in the right direction to Lovetown by being a Libra and having that prescription, basically? I'm not feeling it.
No, I think if he goes for a Libran, there'll be a bit of competition between who's the better looking.
There you go. I'm enjoying this. And look at this. Nubianette, my sister and aunt are both tall Capricorns.
Yeah, there you go.
Uncanny, isn't it?
Yeah, and Cindy B is saying this Cappy would have said, "My people will get with your people."
Is that a big old bus to Lovetown? Is that a coach load? I'm wondering, like Cindy
fun.
B. Yeah.
And Penny's saying, "Oh God, Taurus, Sun, Aquarium, Moon, and Libra rising." Charles.
Well, yes, I imagine he did get told that from time to time on tour. But as I say, these fellas on tour in the 70s, I'm sure they did quite a good time.
So anyway, let's look at
next. This is a presentation. I can't believe it. Should we send this to the floaters? I hope they're still around and still entertaining. They might love this.
Okay, so Leo.
My name is Paul. You see, I like all women of the world. Okay, Paul. We know we've got you.
He wants everyone.
He's a Leo. Is that a typical Leo, man?
Yeah.
Okay. You see, to me, all women are wildflowers. And if you understand what I'm saying, I want you to come to Take My Hand and let me show you to Love Land.
Do you know what? He wants a crazy Leo Sagittarian woman
who would fall for a man saying women are just like wildflowers.
Yeah. Who would get excited? Maybe a Gemini could get kind of interested. And he's also, like he's saying, you see, I like all women of the world. He's not saying that he's going to be exclusive. And
he's certainly not signaling monogamy, is he?
He's definitely not signaling monogamy.
And and some women, they for the sake of their own freedom might see that as a good signal, or like a bad boy.
I think actually the Leo guy is more likely to attract the Aquarian and Sagittarian. Maybe the Aquarian, I mean, they're opposite signs. I would say the Sagittarius is the one that's most likely to say, you know what, I was looking for a serious relationship, but you know what? This sounds like a bit of fun.
Yes.
And I want to be
We've got 27 more states to get through on this tour. So what the hell?
I think he might have a bit of fun, with a Leo or a Sagittarian.
So Paul the Leo, it's looking quite good for him, isn't it? With his life strategy.
I would say
and his love strategy there.
Last of all then.
Right. Are you hurrying us up? We are a bit over schedule, aren't we?
We are a bit over schedule, but that's fine.
All right. Cancer. So this is of special interest to me. And as Barry said, Carl tried to keep up. I am. This always happens, though, Darby, in this situation.
That's actually not my cousin saying that. That was Darby saying.
I know. Yes. I am trying to keep up.
Yeah.
All right. And as Barry said, Larry was the best catch. And maybe both Barry and I, as young fellas, as boys, really, at the time, thought he's a sensitive, caring guy, not unlike myself. Cancer, and my name is Larry. And the great thing about what Larry does here is he puts his name into the lyrics, if I may sing it again.
Go on.
If you'll permit
Last
me.
time.
So he's like, Cancer, and my name is Larry. Huh. That and a nice huh. Yeah. And I like a woman that loves everything and everybody, because I love everybody and everything. And you know what, ladies? If you feel that this is you, then this is what I want you to do. Ooh, yeah. Take my hand. Let me take you to Love Land. Let me show you how sweet it could be sharing love with Larry. I want you to listen. Float on, float on. No, just the one with the squeakiest voice. The Joe Pasquale of the Floaters. Okay. Which is a terrible review.
It's fine. It's fine. Nubian actually, just before we like break apart Larry's proposal there.
Yeah.
Nubian is saying, it came out in 1977 when my sister was born and I was 11. No wonder I found it confusing.
You must have been wondering what on earth is going on here.
bless.
Yeah. These men.
Yeah. I don't actually remember that song.
You don't?
I was born though.
Right. Okay. I was definitely born, and I think you're
about 15, weren't you?
77. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's later than I thought.
Oh no.
I remember the first
12.
soul records that I had were ones that had come out of the jukebox of my mum and dad's pub with the holes, with the center missing because they were from the jukeboxes. And I had Minnie Riperton's "Loving You" on that, and I thought this was the same sort of era as that, but it's a bit later. I think we're moving into the end of disco, aren't we? And the punk times,
Hey,
I think.
do you know what? This is still an astrology show.
Oh, beg your pardon. Yeah, beg your pardon. Yeah. Although, didn't you do quite a big astrology splash on my show yesterday?
I did, yeah.
In my absence.
Anyway, go on.
Okay. Right.
So the last one then, Cancer.
He's a Cancerian. He likes a woman that loves everything and everybody because he, like, as a but you, did we not talk about this earlier?
Yeah.
Cancerians don't necessarily love everything and everybody, do they? Or if they get the hump, they stop doing that.
Yeah, Cancerians are actually quite protective and
jealous, even
jealous and possessive at times. And they really don't want a woman that loves everything and everybody.
I don't think Larry meant that literally, though.
Yeah.
Like, okay, as you were just loving everybody. Forgive me.
Yeah.
I think it's metaphorically, like poetically, right?
If he really does love everybody and everything.
Yeah.
You know what, ladies? He actually,
is that another signal?
He needs, I think he needs more of a Pisces woman.
Or he's just a philandering Cancerian. Or he's not even a Cancerian, he's just pretending to be a Cancerian.
I don't know.
Because at the time, most ladies loved a Cancerian.
Because they're the sensitive ones.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And he might actually be a show-offy Leo.
I actually think.
Moody too.
See,
Penny.
Penny is saying, how did I end up with a Cancer husband? And I'm going to say, Penny, don't knock it. I've got a Cancerian.
Well, I say don't knock it till you try it. You did try it.
But yes, he is moody as well.
Yes, I would just call moments of intense introspection.
Yeah. What I think Larry's actually
moodiness.
looking for, Larry actually needs a stronger partner here. Because, it sounds to me like he's ready to put it out and about and he loves everyone and everything. But you know what? I think he needs a strong Scorpio to completely obliterate any sense of any other woman. He needs a woman that's absolutely going to not, like
well and truly go to Lovetown. Already lives there.
Yeah.
Already lives there.
Yeah. And then
owns most of the town.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Larry's just, he's gonna have his fill. He will find that this person represents everyone in his world. Yeah. I think a Cancerian really wants somebody that's really deep.
Generally speaking, then the Floaters' classic float on. Astrological integrity or artistic license?
It's artistic license.
Again.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just using words because they rhyme.
Yeah, basically.
That's songs for you, though, isn't it? To be fair.
Sure is.
Right.
So anyway,
thank you for allowing me. And if anyone's got any recommendations for the listening for signs, we're up for it doing this.
Yeah,
again.
what we will
enjoyed
do.
It.
This was good fun. I really enjoyed it, and what we will do, I think Carla's going to.
I'll drop the track onto it. I'll make a recording. I'll do a little edit, and you'll be able to hear it and enjoy the song, like we did for New Moon on Monday. Yeah,
you won't be able to hear it on YouTube though, so
we'll just get so busted doing that.
But you can listen to the amended thing.
I'm concerned that my rendition was so accurate and like the original that we might have a copyright problem.
Well, I'm prepared to risk that.
Right.
I think we're okay. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me, hubby. That was good fun.
Any requests?
Yeah, let's see if there are any requests coming in. Darby's saying, Louisa, watch out for Mr. M after your show. very
Darby
much.
must be a very intelligent and sensitive person.
She
and,
is.
And
I was looking at her chart earlier.
Psychic as well.
Penny saying brilliant, so funny. Cindy saying love this.
Okay,
and
let's do it again.
Saying this was fun.
Cool.
So
okay.
you are invited back for some more fun and hilarity next
And
week.
let's hope that the millennial songwriters rekindle an interest in astrology, because the peak of astrological songs was definitely probably the mid to late 60s and early 70s, wasn't it? A 10-year period.
Yeah.
Maybe 67 to 77 when this capped it all. But, you know, that's where we're probably looking, isn't it? And I hope new songs come with that, with some astrological integrity.
Yeah,
And do it right this time around.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Or we can go on and look at some law of attraction type things as well. You know, there's a lot of great songs.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So like songs with a
spiritual integrity,
with a spiritual integrity, and see if they were just writing some commercial thing to capitalize on a zeitgeist, or if the people really meant it.
Yeah.
Well,
so there you go.
Yeah,
there was this is our first welcome back Feel Good Astrology show. I hope you like the new format, and we will be live with you next Sunday. And let's just see what's.
Does my agent know about this?
Darby's also saying, "Oh Lord, mine is a Cancer too."
What? Okay, everybody.
Do you feel coveted now?
No,
Posited?
I think I might start a little support group for Cancerian husbands. And we can
astrology loving wives.
We can all be sensitive together,
Yeah.
or what you call moody.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Last, Barry's asking for us to do the Age of Aquarius, so let's do that next week.
We've done it though, haven't we?
We have done it.
Should we dust it down and do our own remix?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Please do join us next week, next Sunday.
Nice to meet
Sunday.
some new folks and be with some old friends as well. Great.
Yeah. All right. Lots of love. Take care. Bye for now.